is advised. This is 10-Minute Murder.
Alex's initial story was that he was pulled over on an isolated road to change a tire on his car when an unidentified vehicle zoomed past, firing a gun at Alex and hitting him in the head. He wasn't seriously injured, and as soon as he was questioned by authorities while in the hospital, his wild story began to come apart at the seams. Investigators quickly discovered that Alex wasn't driving alone. He had a passenger, Curtis Edward Smith, who was his relative and friend. When pressed about Curtis's involvement in the incident, Alex eventually admitted that Curtis had been the one to shoot him because Alex had asked him to. It was a convoluted suicide plan, and he'd wanted his suicide to appear to be a murder so that his eldest son, Buster, would be able to collect a large payout on his life insurance policy. But obviously the plan had gone wrong, and despite being shot in the back of the head, Alex was still alive and well. 2 days after this failed suicide attempt, Alex wrote a statement addressed to his family, friends, and colleagues, in which he apologized for his recent actions and stated that he was about to go to rehab for his substance abuse problem. Alex's accomplice, Curtis Smith, was arrested and charged with assisting in a suicide attempt, attempted insurance fraud, and aggravated assault. Curtis argued that, despite initially agreeing to the plan, he had not meant to shoot Alex. He'd actually grabbed the gun to prevent Alex from shooting himself, and that the gun had accidentally gone off. There was no version of events that truly made sense, but to police, this story in particular seemed very unlikely. On the 16th of September 2021, Alex Murdaugh willingly turned himself in. He was charged with 3 felonies, filing a false police report, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. It was the first time that Alex and Curtis were charged for the same crime, but it would not be the last. In mid-2022, both men were indicted for money laundering related to the distribution of the opioid oxycodone. With Alex Murdaugh's shady financial practices becoming widely known, the next piece of the puzzle began to slot into place, this time with an event that occurred 3 years before. In 2018, Gloria Satterfield, the Murdaugh family housekeeper and nanny, had been injured at their home due to a fall. She had been hospitalized, but after 2 weeks, she was unable to recover from her injuries. At the time of her death, Gloria had been employed by the Murdaugh family for more than 2 decades. Once the funeral was over, Alex Murdaugh asked to meet with Gloria's adult children, telling them that he could put them in touch with a lawyer, Corey Fleming, who could supposedly help them with their issues surrounding Gloria's death, the issues being money. However, Gloria's sons were unaware that the lawyer he had recommended was actually a close friend of Alex's. Corey Fleming reached a settlement with Alex for $4.3 million, with $2.8 going directly to Gloria's sons. But Gloria's sons never saw that money. In September of 2021, they revealed that they didn't even know that Alex had reached a settlement with their lawyer. Alex Murdaugh pocketed that money. In October of 2021, Alex was arrested for a second time, this time because of those settlement funds that he had never given to his housekeeper's family. As he'd said in his apology statement to family and friends, Alex was residing in a drug treatment facility located in Orlando, Florida. Police apprehended him there, charging him with an additional felony to add to the existing 3 that he already faced. This time, the charge was for obtaining property through false pretenses. The following year, Alex admitted that he had never paid Gloria's sons the settlement and still owed them millions of dollars. Gloria had worked for the Murdaughs for so long that she and her children trusted them, considering them like family. When Alex Murdaugh told Gloria's children how she died, they never thought to question the story. But with all the information that had surfaced about the family in the years since Gloria died, how likely is it that Gloria happened to die accidentally in the Murdaugh family home, leading to the millions of dollars being siphoned by Alex Murdaugh? As it turns out, the cause of Gloria's death remains a gray area. This was Alex Murdaugh's story. Gloria had not been looking where she was going, causing her to be tripped by one of the family dogs. She had fallen down the steps out of the front of the house, leading to her severe injuries. But on Gloria's death certificate, the cause of death given is natural causes, which in medical terms means caused by a disease or not directly influenced by external forces. If a person dies because of a fall, their cause of death is trauma. The fall, and whatever object their body hits, is an external force. Gloria also never had an autopsy performed. In fact, the coroner was never even notified that she had died. In mid-2022, South Carolina law enforcement announced that they were starting the process of exhuming Gloria's remains so that the cause of her death could be investigated further. There is another family secret that began to surface during the investigation, although this one was only partially hidden. Paul Murdaugh's boat crash. When police first arrived at the scene of Maggie and Paul's murders, Alex Murdaugh had been strangely very upfront with them, blaming the shooting on whoever was supposedly sending Paul threats after the boat crash took place. Partially, he was telling the truth. His son Paul had been at fault in a boating incident that led to the death of an innocent passenger. The rest of the story, however, did not quite line up. In 2019, Paul Murdaugh was charged with driving his boat while intoxicated, leading to Mallory Beach's death and the injury of other passengers. In 2021, when he was shot to death, he was out on bail. It was only after Paul died that the video evidence of police documents about the incident became public knowledge, causing many people to question if Paul's locally famous family and their money had led to Paul getting a much lighter treatment than he deserved. Immediately after the crash, one of Paul's passengers gave a statement to the Department of Natural Resources, telling the officer that at the time of the crash, Paul had been driving the boat. That statement didn't quite make it into the incident report. In fact, the officer wrote down that the passenger said that he was unsure about who was behind the wheel. The charges against Paul Murdaugh were both felonies: boating under the influence causing great bodily injury and boating under the influence causing death. Following Mallory's death, a lawsuit was filed against several people thought to be liable in the crash. One of those people was Alex Murdaugh. At the time Paul was shot dead, he wasn't being threatened in relation to the crash, but his father was. Alex was being pressured by the Mallory family lawyer, who was demanding that he release certain details about his finances. Only 3 days after Paul's death, the hearing was set to begin. This information gave investigators their best theory as to Alex's motive for killing 2 of his family members in cold blood, trying to gain sympathy in the public eye and provide a distraction from the financial crimes that he was barely able to hide. Alex might have been a renowned lawyer for much of his adult life, but he was not a good liar. He was so disconnected from the real world that when it all came crashing down on him, he wasn't prepared to deal with the consequences of his actions. And now he was facing murder charges, in addition to several other felonies. He was indicted for the murders of Paul and Maggie in July of 2022, more than a year later. In court, when he took to the witness stand, he admitted that he had lied to his associates and friends and stolen from people he was close to, but he blamed his addiction to opioids for these actions. And he insisted that he wasn't the one to kill his family. In March 2023, Alex Murdaugh was convicted by the jury and found guilty of murdering his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul. He was sentenced to life behind bars, as well as 2 counts of murder. Alex was charged with an impressive series of financial crimes. He'd consistently siphoned money out of his family's own law firm, and he'd stolen money from his own clients without remorse, including clients who had received life-changing injuries or disabilities due to car accidents. State prosecutors stated that Alex Murdaugh had stolen almost $9 million from an array of different victims. Alex Murdaugh was the king of a local legal empire. From the day he was born, he was guaranteed success. But nothing was ever enough for him. Not enough painkillers, not enough money, not enough power. He was so desperate for his crimes to remain undiscovered that he murdered half his family, leaving his only remaining son effectively an orphan. Alex spent his life getting away with whatever he wanted, but in the end, he took it one step too far, and the Murdaugh castle came crashing down around him. That is 10-Minute Murder for today. Brief and bingeable true crime. My name is Joe. I'm the host, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen. If this is your first time listening to 10-Minute Murder, subscribe now and you can catch up on all the back episodes. Never miss any of the new ones. If you're listening to this right now on YouTube, just FYI, a quick heads up, there are literally hundreds more episodes that are not on YouTube, but they are on any platform that you listen to podcasts. Connect with me on social media, see the visuals we're talking about here in the podcast, and if you like this episode, leave a rating and review on Apple or any place that's possible. Your positive feedback is very, very much appreciated. And quickly, before we scoot out of here, an email question to me, joe@10minutemurder.com is my email address. Hey, Joe, love your podcast and your quirky sense of humor. My question is, will you ever recover stories that you've already done episodes on in the past? That's to say, just do another episode on someone that you've done an episode on years ago. Gina in Denver, Colorado. Yes, Gina. And thanks for the email. Yes, I think I will eventually do that. I've done episodes on John Wayne Gacy and the Manson family, but those are longer episodes. So I'll probably start with the ones like that. Just make shorter versions. Essentially, it'll be the same information because that doesn't really change. But tell the story in a different, shorter way. Make it more of a true 10-minute murder episode. Thank you for your email, and that is it. That is today's episode. Thank you so much for listening.